Hello, welcome to the sideboard here at the StarCityGames.com Open Series in Syracuse. I am Nick Miller alongside Hyuk Hwang. How are you doing, sir?
Thank you, I'm doing great.
You are doing great. You're 7-0 so far. You're ripping it up with this new aggressive deck we haven't really seen. We've seen mono red last week at the Invitational,
right,
but you're doing a little something different here with a red-black aggro deck, and it's not so much low to the ground. You know, talk about your choices, how you came to this particular build, and why you thought it was good for the metagame this weekend.
Yeah, thank you for that question. I did also realize and notice that there were a rise in red aggressive decks, and I agree with the red aggressive decks that was a good place to be in a world where lands come into play tapped.
Right.
However, because of the resurgence or the rise of the red decks, I thought, along with a few friends like David Green who helped design this deck, that players will come prepared to fight against a linear strategy involving tokens, low to the ground creatures. And I thought adding a versatility to the deck that made the deck resilient to sideboarded games was where I wanted to be for this weekend.
Okay, yeah, so you're skewing stuff like Foundry Street Denizen and all that super low to the ground dashy stuff. You got a little dash in Zergo, but he's really just your one-drop choice along with Monastery Swiftspear, Goblin Rattlemaster, and then Dragon Fodder as basically your creature base. Interesting thing here is with Dragons of Tarkir, you're not using Hordling Outburst, instead Dragon Fodder. You know, what are the decisions there?
Hordling Outburst, I thought I wanted to add a certain amount of cards that were able to be hosted by sideboard cards that are good against small creatures. And so I didn't want to use both Dragon Fodder and Hordling Outburst. Considering all the small synergies in the deck and the mana curve, I decided to take Goblin Rabblemaster in the 3-drop threat slots over the Hordling Outburst. And the fact that Goblin Rabblemaster is a creature is also relevant in the red-black card that I'm using, which is Call Against Command.
Yeah, one of the standouts of your deck, you have a 3-piece of Call Against Command. You know, a card that's gotten a lot of buzz for a lot of standard and modern implications. You have it here going alongside your other black cards, Murderous Cut, Thoughtseize. How good has the command been?
The command is a card that I would never want 4 of, but I would always want 3 of, and it has been excellent every time I played it.
Okay. What are you usually choosing on the modes here?
I feel like Call Against Command is a very skill-intensive card, and it's been a really big challenge kind of navigating through what the optimal line of play is. But I think I've been choosing most modes, except Destroy and Artifact mode is the one that I use least, although sometimes I do blow up Perilous Faults or Whip of Erebos.
Right, seems pretty strong in those situations. So your removal suite, got a couple Wild Slash and Lightning Strike, 3 Roast, another card from Dragons of Tarkir, as well as 4 Stoke the Flames. Interaction with Dragon Fodder, obviously very good there. Now here's the interesting part of your deck. You're going a little bigger. We saw this in Michael Braverman's sideboard at the Invitational. He had the Outpost Sieges, but you have 2 main deck along with the Chandra to give you some late game little muscle there. Okay. With Chandra, what's the split here? You just don't want to have too many Outpost Sieges, or do you really use the implication here for the +1 ability?
+1 ability is definitely something we considered when we added Chandra. Originally, I started the deck with 3 Outpost Sieges, and having the Outpost Siege along with cards like Call Against Command kind of give the deck a way to fight the card advantage war. And having 22 lands with those 4 drops is an excellent strategy that I really enjoy. The split on Outpost Siege and Chandra, that's something that me along with David Green, we decided was optimal, and we did that because the way Outpost Siege in the main deck works is whenever you show Outpost Siege game 1, your opponents are most likely to bring in Enchantment Hate, and that's when you bring in high mana cost cards from the sideboard and take out the Outpost Siege. And in those situations, Chandra can stay in the main deck and be resilient to enchantment removal.
Interesting. Yeah, you kind of do the bait and switch when they gear up for that, take it out. You got some interesting sideboard cards here, mainly 3 copies of Thunderbreak Regent, another card that was just all over the place at the Invitational, but coming out of your sideboard catches a lot of people off guard when they see just this fast out of the gates red deck.
Definitely.
Another thing, talk about the inclusion of 4 copies of Self-Inflicted Wound here. This seems really good.
Oh yeah. Self-Inflicted Wound is probably one of 2 reasons that I decided to go on the black splash for this deck. Thoughtseize is an effect that I really respect in this game, and that was definitely one of the reasons. But Self-Inflicted Wound was a way to fight through decks that this red-based aggro strategy had a really time fighting against, big green or white creatures blocking and gumming the ground. So Self-Inflicted Wound was one of the reasons that I gravitated towards this deck, and it has been very excellent.
So a major drawing point to the Black Splash. You know, I imagine it has huge implications in the heroic matchup.
Definitely.
Taking care of siege rhinos and stuff like that.
All day.
All right. You also have for your Black Splash 2 ultimate price and some more discard and 2 more duress. How'd you come to just 2 ultimate price, and did you kind of toy with any other black cards, or did you just kind of hone in on these?
The cards that remove your opponent's strategy, removes opponent's creatures, by virtue of being red and black, and by virtue of being an aggressive deck, you don't get to choose like all the best cards that you want to play, and the removal has to be always conceding to something.
Right.
Some removal is good against some things, while bad against some other things. And considering that, Ultimate Price has been a new addition that I brought in this weekend, and I say that because I did play this deck the weekend past. The Ultimate Prices were a nod to a rise in popularity of Thunderbreak regions mostly. The Dragons, I felt like, was going to show up big this tournament. And Ultimate Prices were one of the only ways this deck can fight through that efficiently.
Excellent, yeah. Then of course you have a couple of ways to deal with little things like tokens, which could be a tough matchup. You got 2 Twin Bolt and an Arc Lightning. Very good at dealing with all of those.
Definitely.
So 7 rounds in, you're undefeated so far. You know, what does the metagame look like to you, and how well do you think the deck's positioned?
I feel like the metagame, we will see what it truly looks like at the upcoming Standard Pro Tour.
Right.
I think right now people are still trying new things, and the new strategies can see success, and I felt that it was a challenge to design a deck that would fight a metagame, although I think I have found some success here. I'm looking forward to the rest of the tournament.
Excellent. Well, I would definitely say you found success. You're 7-0. And Hwang, thanks for sitting down with me.
Yeah, thank you, Nick.
Stay tuned to StarCityGames.com all weekend long for the action here in Syracuse. All right, let's not forget about the most important part of the deck.
Oh, yeah.
What would that be?
The most important part of the deck definitely is my basic mountains. These basic mountains are signed by no other than the Red Mage, Patrick Sullivan himself. I've always looked up to his commentary and his knowledge of the game, and I was lucky enough to have it signed by him recently, and I plan on playing with those mountains for a long time.
All right, well, hopefully you'll impress him a little bit on camera in the upcoming rounds.